Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. Trust me, I'm nowhere near as tired as I might look right now. I had something flick up off the road today and hit me on the eye while I was driving my bike. I don't wear sunglasses normally, but I went and bought 2 pairs afterwards because this has been a pain in my eye all day. And I must admit, as much as I've not been able to see clearly, physically most of the day, I also kind of overshot yesterday in my video. And as much as I'm not going to spend all of the time here at the start of this video backtracking, flip-flopping, I am going to say this. If you watched my video yesterday talking about Osimhen, I think I was a little bit harsh. And upon reflection, I'm more than happy to admit when I might have got something wrong. And I think I probably got this wrong. And what we've heard since is that Osimhen is no longer working with his agent. The deal to Galatasaray was without Kalender, his agent. And I think that changes things a lot. I think the agent screwed the deal. Chelsea didn't offer enough money, which is, again, very questionable. We've only got ourselves to blame. And I think it makes sense. Osimhen knows his value and he doesn't want to budge from it. So the way I spoke about it yesterday, I don't really think it was my best. I think there definitely is a lot of sentimental things there about me still being a bit upset that he didn't sign. So I just wanted to get that one blown out of the way because, yeah, I've read a lot of the comments. There's a lot of comments on that video. And then I watched myself back and I'm like, yeah, I think you're just being a bit of a dick there, Benson, to be fair. So in today's video, though, we're going to move on from that now. We're going to talk today about the new signing, Jadon Sancho, a man that joins Chelsea on deadline day. It's a loan, but it's basically a signing because the obligation that Chelsea have to buy is if we finish 14th place in the Premier League or higher. And I'll be very honest, as much as if you'd have asked me 5 years ago, Chelsea are going to finish 14th, I'd have probably been like, nonsense. Worst thing we're going to get is 10th. Now, sometimes I'm a bit like, I don't know what to expect from this club anymore because we've been a bit crazy. We have been up and down, and to be fair, we've been down for the last couple of years. And Jadon Sancho, as a player, if you'd have said to me 4 years ago, you remember those days where you couldn't leave your house? There was that thing going around that they just kept flipping talking about all the time. Jadon Sancho to Chelsea back then was like a dream. If you'd have told me that Jadon Sancho 4 years ago, if you'd have said in 2024, Jadon Sancho is going to be one of your wingers, I'd be like, come on, we're doing all right here. The thing is, with Sancho, he went to Manchester United. So much promise at Borussia Dortmund. For whatever reason, it's not quite worked at Man United. Is that Erik ten Hag? Is that Jadon Sancho? It's absolutely, from what we can see from the outside, and look, I'm not a United fan, but I do like Sancho, always have. But I think at Manchester United, he kind of went in there expecting to be the big dog. You got Paul Pogba there when he first signed, Cristiano Ronaldo as well, I think. And it never really worked. And I don't think he ever hit the heights that he hit at Dortmund. And then as a result of that and being young, I feel as though he kind of just let that bad form get to him a little bit, got a bit lazy. There was discipline issues that we heard at Manchester United. And I think, to be fair to Erik ten Hag, as much as if you've got a player like that, it's up to the manager and it's up to the staff at that football club to try and work with him to get him back. Because at the end of the day, you're still paying his wages. You've still got a really good young player there. And I just think in terms of nurturing Sancho back in, it was never done properly. So when you look at Chelsea now and you hear Jadon Sancho's words when he was growing up, he was Drogba, Frank Lampard were his idols. And he was a Chelsea fan when he was growing up, so we're led to believe. At 24 years old, a lot of people, opinions on Sancho is this. He's done it in the Bundesliga, but he can't do it in the Premier League. I think it's very different when a player who is 23, 24 goes from the Bundesliga, having only ever grown up playing football in Germany, goes to the Premier League and doesn't get it, it doesn't work, it's not the same. That makes a lot of sense because it is a culture shock. You've got to learn a new language. You're in a completely different country with a different style of football, with a different level of football almost too. I'd say Germany and England grassroots, both very good. I'm not trying to put one above the other here, but it's different. But he's English. He grew up, he was playing at Manchester City's academy. He's obviously worked under Joe Shields before. He's played with Parma, Lavia, Tosin. And I think Jadon Sancho, I think it's simply been about being at the wrong club. Sometimes you just sign for a club and it isn't right for you. Sometimes it's the culture behind that club. Sometimes it's everything going on at that club. And with Sancho, what we're going to talk about today is where he fits in the Chelsea team. What is he good at? And at Manchester United, if you look at the way United have been playing, when was the last time Man United had direct wingers that wanted to go 1v1? When was the last time Manchester United had a player that wanted to connect with the wingers, wanted to have those little 1-2s in the final third, in the tight spaces between the lines? Man United have been struggling going forward for a while. And I think for Sancho, when he first got there and he's battling with egos, with Pogba, with Ronaldo, it never worked then. But I think now it was just too far to go for Jadon Sancho to get back in favour with Erik ten Hag, and then as a result of that, they're desperate to get rid of him. He's desperate to go. And I think this is a match made in heaven, potentially. And this isn't just blind optimism again either, because I don't think Jadon Sancho has just lost all of that ability that we saw in the youth years and that was exhibited countless times for Dortmund, even in the Champions League last season. Jadon Sancho against PSG, if you just watch that game against Paris Saint-Germain for Dortmund in the Champions League, you're thinking he's a £100 million player. So the fact that Chelsea here have got the loan with an obligation to buy, and we have to buy him for 25 million if we finish 14th in the Premier League or higher. Hopefully, bloody hell. Anyway, we move. Jadon Sancho is at Chelsea, and I, for one, am excited. However, I do think there is a world here where a lot of things need to happen for Jadon Sancho to be a regular starter in this Chelsea team. Because if you look at this first lineup that we're going to talk about here, and I need to discuss this, it's interesting because there is obviously one obvious thing that you've seen here. Two obvious things. There's no Sancho and there's JustACoupleGs at right back. There is a lot of discussions happening right now that Malo Gusto and Reece James, both of them, might not be fit enough to play Bournemouth away in the Premier League when we come back after this international break. Moises Caicedo. I can see a lot of you saying, no, just play Caicedo there and have Enzo and Lavia in the CDM. That could work. Moises Caicedo played right back for Brighton quite a few times and did a decent job. But the way that we're learning this new system, the midfield has been an issue so far. So you take out one of those best midfielders to play him in a relatively unknown position in a new system with a relatively unknown players still getting used to one another squad. I think this is a disaster waiting to happen. And also, Enzo Maresca has spoke so highly of JustACoupleGs. And look, at the right moment right here, we're struggling to find connections, right? Chelsea Football Club, the way that we've been doing business, new manager, he needs to endear himself to the fans a bit more. We need to back him and believe in him. Not everybody's going to do that. But I think when you're selling half the academy players in the last couple of years, to give Achiampong a shout because he's a right back, like that would prove that there is still a pathway into the first team for Chelsea. And look, it's the Premier League. We're not here to just give out games or if it was internationals caps. We're not here doing it for charity. But JustACoupleGs was wanted by Paris Saint-Germain. I think there was talks about Barcelona wanted him in the summer too. This kid can play. And I know it would be very easy to just be like, oh, but he's not ready, he's not ready. Maybe not. But if your two first choice right backs aren't fit, give the kid a shot. And if we're 45 minutes into the game and he's getting run ragged and he can't cope, then you bring Moises Caicedo into right back, stick Enzo Fernandez on the pitch. This is the 11 that I would see against Bournemouth as of right now. I think there'll be a lot more that we hear over the course of the next week or so about Gusto's injury. He's not gone with France, the under-21s, I think. And Reece James is also supposed to be back, but as much as I want him back, desperately want him back actually, he's our club flipping captain, I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't know how else to say it. I just don't think he's going to be fit and ready to go straight back into starting Premier League football. So, now that we have got that post-international break lineup out of the way, let's discuss one of the benefits here of signing Jadon Sancho. And that is that he can play on the right or, as you can see in this lineup here, the left. This is a 4-2-3-1 once again. You can see that I've got Reece James in there. I think this could be, right now, the strongest 11 that we've got if Jadon Sancho is playing. I think Pedro Neto is still ahead of him right now in the pecking order. I think Sancho is obviously not going to want to join Chelsea on loan and then have to stay here next season if we finish 14th or above, which we should do. Sancho's not going to want to come here and not play. So I think this kind of level of competition is exactly what Chelsea need. No one is going to be able to have a run of 2 or 3 games without being good enough. And I also think that's why we've signed Jadon Sancho, because Mudryk has had too many games above 2 and 3 games in a row without being good enough. So we've looked at that and thought, well, Pedro Neto's injury record's not very good. You got Noni there on the right, who's been absolutely excellent. Then we can have Jadon Sancho on either one of those sides. Joao Felix can do the job too. Sancho on the left. I think what you've got here with this starting 11, Noni and Palmer, right now, I can't see a Chelsea lineup that doesn't include these 2 players. The way that they've linked up, and Jackson as well, in the early stages of this season, has been fantastic. And as much as here, we could talk all day long about who should be up front. You've also got this lineup here where Christopher Nkunku could well be the striker. He could drop in. You've got that dynamism there as well between Sancho, Palmer, and Noni Madueke. And what Jadon Sancho has been so good at over the years is that link-up play. That's what made him so good at Dortmund. And it was like, out of nowhere, Sancho would make something happen. He'd just skip around or skip past the player. And Chelsea, when you look at this team that we have got here on the screen, Reece James, Fofana and Colwill, I think, are absolutely growing into a really solid centre-back pairing. I know that a lot of you are going to be like, Benson, you're waffling at this point. Like, we've conceded so many goals. These 2 are looking good. It's about the whole line. And I think Gusto's really let himself down in the first couple of games here. But Cucurella as well in there. I think Cucurella playing with Sancho ahead of him, it would be a lot of work for Marc Cucurella to do. But between Caicedo and Lavia, you'd expect Lavia to kind of drop in a bit more into a more defensive position. The reason I've not got Enzo Fernandez in here is because I think right now Chelsea do look weak in that midfield. And I think Enzo's just not that kind of destroyer type player. And I think Lavia is. I think if Lavia can get back to fitness, from what I've seen from Enzo Fernandez so far this season, look, I'm not writing the guy off, but we've got a big squad here. And we've got players that are going to be chomping at the bit to get into the starting 11. And I think Lavia deserves it. And I think Caicedo after last season does too. We move here into formation 3. Still a 4-2-3-1 line up here. It's Jackson back up front with Sancho on the right wing. To be honest, as much as I don't think Sancho is going to start, I'm fascinated to see how this season goes, you know, because Pedro Neto's been bought in for 60 million. That's a massive outlay of money. Mudryk is also there, and he looked quite good when he came on against Palace the other day. And I think if we're talking about like the pecking order, the hierarchy, with Mudryk, I think he's kind of lost his chance, but he will get chances. Now, we've also got a couple of lineups here that do include Joao Felix and Christopher Nkunku. And Nkunku is the player that I want to discuss here because when you look at the minutes that he's played so far this season for Chelsea, there's not many minutes there. And for being one of the high wage earners at the club, looking at the way that we're doing things right now, I wouldn't be surprised if we do go back in the market for an Osimhen or another top striker in the next 2 windows. I wouldn't be surprised if Maresca's not going to be using Nkunku if we actually sell him. And I think this is absolutely crazy because I think Christopher Nkunku is a world-class player. He scored 5 goals in his last 5 Chelsea starts as well. So when you keep looking through all of these different lineups here that are rotating, I'm going with a 4-2-3-1 because I just think that's the way that Chelsea line up the best right now. And there's no Enzo Fernandez in there because I'm making a flipping point. I think Caicedo and Lavia should be that pairing for the upcoming games. Chelsea have been better at the end of last season when Enzo Fernandez wasn't in the side. So I think for now, that's what we need to see. Whether or not Jadon Sancho actually gets enough minutes this season is still completely up in the air. When you think about how many wingers Chelsea have got, you think about how Mudryk has been used so frequently, but then now it's like, I don't see how he can get anywhere close to being in the team. And then when we saw Maresca make substitutions against Palace at the weekend, just gone, Mudryk's doing well. There's so many attackers on the field, but there's also gaps in the midfield. So the balance of this Chelsea team needs some serious work, but I think when you've got a player in there like Sancho, I think it's about homing in on what that ability was at Dortmund. Such a good dribbler, great in tight spaces, brilliant first touch, and I think the passing and being able to feed off of players like Madueke, Palmer, Jackson as well, with the way that he drops deep, it could be very exciting. I don't think Chelsea fans right now have any intentions of being patient, and I understand it. We want to get back into the top 4 at minimum this season. With all of the money that we have spent, we need to be getting top 4. And I think Enzo Maresca is going to do a very good job to make sure that all of these players stay happy, they're not kicking up a fuss, and they're a part of something bigger than what they are as individuals. That is what I'm hoping we're going to see from this Chelsea team. Let me know your thoughts on Jadon Sancho in the comments down below. I know that when we first signed him, there was so much focus on, are we getting Osimhen, and nowadays, signing Jadon Sancho after what's happened at United, maybe it's not as invigorating and exciting for some people as it might have been 3 or 4 years ago. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on Sancho in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Also, make sure you check out the JustACoupleGs channel. We're uploading our first travel tennis video today. And also, there's MoreGBFC. It's the international break, so I've decided to not only reinvigorate the channel I have with Georgie, my girlfriend, but also start the MoreGBFC channel as well. So these videos are on the screen now as cards, or you can check the links in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.